Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Mubdia Barisahya, and today I would like to present our research. And this research was collaborative effort with my colleagues Jadinullah Akbar and our supervisor, Mr. Yudhistira Nugraha. Our topic is something that's incredibly important in today's digital world, understanding the trust and usability challenges in encrypted email. And we focus specifically on a very high stakes group, government and intelligence professional here in Indonesia. So let's dive right in. And this is the outline. So we all know that secure communication is absolutely essential, especially for people working in high-risk sector like national intelligence, cybersecurity, or tax administration. The threats are very real. In fact, the global cost of cybercrime is projected to hit over 15 trillion dollars by 2029. That's an astonishing number. Now, given these huge risks, you would think that tools like encrypted email would be used by everyone in this sector, right? Well, what we found is that they are not. The adoption of these secure tools is surprisingly low, even in places that need them the most. So, the big question is why? Previous research has pointed two main problems, usability and trust, but there is a catch. Most of the studies were done in Western countries. We realized there was a big gap in our understanding of how this applies in other professional and cultural contexts like ours in Indonesia. Now, this brings us to the main focus of our study. We wanted to answer one simple guiding question. How do usability and trust really influence the adoption of encrypted email by professionals here in Indonesia? And in answering this question, our research makes three key contributions. First, we identified something we call the confidence gap. This is a major finding, and I'll explain it in more detail in just a moment. Second, we pinpointed the main usability challenge. Here's a spoiler, sending an email is easy, but managing the keys is still a big headache. And finally, based on these findings, we were able to develop some practical policy recommendations. The key takeaway here is that we need to shift our thinking from being tool-centric to being more human-centric. So, how did we go about this? This is the methodology that we use. We use the methodology what's called a mixed methods approach. This is just a way of saying we collected both quantitative data, there is number and ratings, and qualitative data, which includes people's personal thoughts and comments. We work closely with 15 professionals from the three sensitive sector I mentioned, intelligence, cybersecurity, and tax. Our study had two main phases. In phase one, we gave them a practical, hands-on task to create an account on either ProtonMail or TutorMail and send us an encrypted email. Then, the second phase, after they had completed the task, they filled out an online questionnaire where they rated their experience and gave us those valuable open-ended comments. When then and then we analyze all of that data to find the key patterns. Before we get the result, let's quickly look at the who our participants were. We had a really great mix of experience level. As you can see in the first charts at the left side, Most had 1 to 5 years of experience, but we also had veterans with over 10 years in their fields. Their email habits also, uh, most use email several times a week, not necessarily all day, every day. And here's a key detail for the majority of them, their primary email tools was their internal organizational email, such as Zebra. This is important because it means any new secure tool has to compete with a system that they already know and use every single day. So the next is our major finding. This is what we call the confidence gap. This was the most fascinating part of our study. We found the strange paradox. When we asked the professional, how important is confidentiality? We asked them how important is confidentiality. They gave it a score 4.87 out of 5, almost perfect. How important is authenticity? 4.8 out of 5. So clearly they know security is critical. But then we ask, how much do you trust that end-to-end encryption actually works and is secure? The scores is dropped and the way down to 3.93. This is the confidence gap. They know they need it, but they're just not convinced that the tools can be trusted. Uh, Participants said or give the quotes like this. It may be secure in theory, but how can we determine that the provider doesn't possess a master key or is not coerced by a third party? And from that single comment shows us that this is not just a technology problem for them. It's a human trust problem. So we have talked about trust, and now we how about usability? How easy were these tools to use? Well, there is good news and there's a bad news here. The good news is that the simple act of sending an encrypted email was rated as very easy. It scored 4.67 out of 5, and this is fantastic. It shows that modern email clients are doing a much better job at basic tasks. The bad news is the key management. This refers to everything involved with handling your encryption keys, creating them, storing them, recovering them. This part was still seen as the main usability issues with a much lower score. So we can see for the issue about key management, we got the lower score of 4.13. We also asked about time. Most people, 9 out of the 15, felt it took about the same amount of time as regular email, so that's a positive sign. Let's discuss about the part about barriers to adoption. If we look at this through a classic model called the technology acceptance model, we see a clear conflict. The perceived ease of use is high, but the perceived usefulness is low. And why is it low? Because as we just saw, trust is low. If you don't fully trust a security tool, you won't see it as really useful. This also point what we call the automation paradox. Making a tool too simple, too magic can actually erode trust because user lose their sense of control. And this is why, in the end, people were very hesitant to adopt these tools full time. The biggest barriers they mentioned were not even technical, they were organizational. They said things like, it will slow my team down, or I won't start using this unless my office mandates it. Okay, the next is about implications for practice and policy. Here we have three recommendations. First is for system designer, you must prioritize building trust. It's not just about making features. It's not just making features simple. You have to provide clear visual feedback so user know. The security is working. We have to close that trust gap. And then the second for policymaker, you cannot just create a new rule and expect people to follow it. That rule must be supported by good training programs that build a real, lasting culture of digital security. And finally, for organization, when you roll out a new tool, you have to provide clear instruction and technical support, especially for those difficult part like key management. So this is our conclusion. Our study confirmed that this confidence gap is a real and significant barrier for high-risk professionals in Indonesia, while usability for basic tasks has gotten much better. The main adoption barriers are no longer just about ease of use. The barriers are now about the complexity of key management and, most importantly, a fundamental lack of trust in the service providers themselves. Our main takeaway is this: technology alone is not enough. To achieve widespread adoption, we must actively build trust and provide better, more targeted user education. Of course, our study had limitation. It was a small, focused sample of 15 experts, and we only look at two email devices, but we believe it provides a strong and important foundation for future research in this area. Finally, I would like to acknowledge that this work was supported by a scholarship from the Ministry of Communications and Digital Affairs. And I want to sincerely thanks for your time and your attention. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.